Welcome to the Porn Reboot Podcast, where you get practical tips to gaining control over your porn or sex addiction. We help ambitious men end their out-of-control sexual behavior with pornography, sex, and masturbation so that you can maximize your life, perform at your potential, and remain in control in the driver's seat, which is where you have to be in order to gain or maintain the success you want in life. I'm your host, J.K. Emezi, certified sex and porn addiction recovery coach. Welcome to the episode.
Brother, welcome to a new series on the different stages of your reboots. The last series that I did was on mindfulness and the different stages of your reboot, what you could expect in the early, middle, late, and maintenance stage when it came to mindfulness, developing your attention and your self-awareness. This time, we are going to be focusing on high-performing men. Men who are successful or highly ambitious, but who are in the top 10% of their career. The reason why I am focusing on this particular group of men is because this is one of the groups of men that is least likely to seek help for their out-of-control behavior. And one of the reasons, well, there are quite a few reasons, but one of the main reasons is because you worked hard to get to where you are. And a part of you has always believed that the things that have brought you success in your career, in your family life, in any area of your reboot capital, you believe those are the same things that are going to get you success in your reboot, in controlling your out-of-control behavior. But it has not. And that's the reason why you're still listening to the Porn Reboot Podcast, because you've not been able to accomplish that yet. I want to tell you one thing. Those things that brought you success in life, material success, familial success, success in your community, in your social life, those things are important. Those traits are useful. You just haven't been trained on how to actually use them when it comes to something like an out-of-control sexual behavior, because your sexual behavior is deeply interconnected with a lot of things that you suppress or have repressed that could get in the way of your success. One of those things, just I'll give you a little snippet without going too deep, is shame. You don't have time to feel shame. You do not have time to feel shame because shame gets in the way of you being a good father. Shame gets in the way of you making sales. Shame gets in the way of you serving your clients and customers. Shame gets in the way of you leading your company. Shame gets in the way of you standing on stage or standing in front of whoever it is that you support or serve and doing what is necessary, and thus you repress it. So there are some things you have to face in the reboot process, but you're not really going to risk that. So you end up becoming overly reliant on things like willpower. So enough said. What I'm going to do for the next 2 minutes is kind of give you a refresher on what the different stages of your reboot are, and then we're going to jump into this series over the next couple of days. So stage 1 is the pre-reboot. Pre-reboot is when you recognize that you have a compulsive behavior. You make an agreement with yourself that, you know what, I think I need to control my behavior. And then you start dealing with withdrawals right away. Often guys just stay stuck at the pre-reboot stage. And the important things at this stage are that you need to allow others to help you. You need to develop trust and hope. And the danger at this stage is that there's a lack of trust in other people. So it's like, yeah, JK, I hear you. I hear therapists. I hear these things, but I don't think it's that complex. You're talking about stages of reboot. You're talking about coping strategies. I think I can use willpower. I think if I stay away from this long enough and do some habit change, blah, 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 I'm going to feel better. You're just in stage 1. Stage 2 is the early reboot. And early reboot, you complete the task of emotionally and cognitively processing whatever it was that brought you into the reboot system. So whether it was you getting caught, whether it is porn-induced erectile dysfunction, whether it is your relationship falling apart or another relationship falling apart, maybe it is some sort of acting out behavior, maybe you're spending a lot of money on escorts and women that you shouldn't be. This is where you have processed that crisis. You're already seeking help for this. And what you really need to do here is develop self-belief. Belief in yourself that you can actually end this behavior because you don't trust yourself. The thing you're going to develop as well, the strength that you're going to develop as you build self-belief is trust, and you're actually going to allow yourself to hope again. Hope that you can end this behavior. What's the biggest danger in the early reboot stage? It's hopelessness. is slipping and relapsing in the early reboot stage and feeling that, you know what, this isn't going to work. It's been this way for years. I knew it wasn't going to work anyway. And usually the biggest causes of relapse in the early stage of your reboot are change, increased stress as you need to set up boundaries, have routines, and a few different things. And a big one is denial. Oh my goodness. I'm not even going to lie to y'all. We have guys in our program who their denial is activated between the early stage of their reboots and the middle stage of their reboot, because it's a lot to face. It's some heavy stuff. So they just reactivate their denial and they just start hiding from me. I'll chase you. I'll find you. If you invest in our program, I will chase your ass down and ask you, where the fuck are you? Get your ass into our session. And now we have a whole team that'll chase you down. So you can't run away from me. All of this is with love, of course. I am lovingly aggressive about making sure that you attend our sessions. Next stage is the middle reboot. So this is when you have finally stopped running away and you have made a commitment to a long-term reboot. This is where you start learning how to overcome negativity. This is where you start learning how to overcome a lack of motivation. And this is the place where your big goals start coming together. Here's where you want to set the goal of living a life of priorities. This is where you start developing your new identity as you begin to focus on the areas of reboot capital that need work. This is the place where you need to have a purpose. So that's what we're going to start working on. You need to stop taking your reboot for granted. A lot of men will take their reboot for granted because you're starting to see some successes. And then that feeling from your pre-reboot comes back that, oh, okay, I got this. JK, thanks for everything. This was wonderful. Thanks for the 90 days, man. But I think I got it from here. No, you don't got it, okay? You're taking your reboot for granted. We're pretty good. We can take a man in 90 days and we can get you to control your behavior, but it still takes 1.5 years to 2 years for your brain to rewire. This is also where you have to start feeling worthy of being loved. If you're in our program for 90 days and you don't feel worthy of being loved, it's just a matter of time before you slip and relapse. But what are the dangers in the middle reboot? This is where you are unable to take any further action because you get racked with guilt. So again, a lot of guilty feelings come up as you begin to process the things that got you to where you are. You begin to see yourself clearly. You begin to feel bad for the way you've been treating your partner or your ex-partners or the way you've treated people around you. This is where you have to start taking initiative. You need to stop pushing yourself forward and stepping out of isolation. Usually guys relapse at this stage because of withdrawal symptoms. Sometimes there's a social breakdown. And when I say social breakdown, it just means that something might happen in your relationship as you begin to see it more clearly. You might have to start changing your friends and the places you hang out. This episode is not about going deep into these things, just a quick refresher on all the different stages. The next stage is stage 4, which is the late reboot. And this is where you begin to address life problems that were brought about by pornography and sex, your compulsive behavior. These are things like porn-induced erectile dysfunction. These are things like certain narcissistic behaviors. These are things like manipulation. These are things like many secrets that you've been keeping, and you start realizing, oh man, my lifestyle has been completely predicated by my behavior with pornography. And I never knew that I lived this way because of that. I talked to certain people because of that. I managed my behavior with my phone because of that. So this is where men develop a very strong motivation to actually begin to change their lifestyle. This is where lifestyle change happens. It's the most exciting stage for me because big moves are made, scary moves are made. I've often told guys the next level is not going to be within your pocketbook or your timeline. And you see men taking these huge leaps and these huge risks. And these are good risks because they put you in what I call the panic zone. When you're in the panic zone, you're panicking. You're like, oh my God, if I mess this up, everything's going to fall apart. But what that allows you to do, on the other hand, is start accessing your internal resources. Your unconscious mind starts supporting you because it's like, no. We can't risk everything. I'm going to start operating at a much higher level. And because you start operating at a much higher level because you're panicking and you have coping strategies, so you're not going to slip as a result of that, you start seeing what you're actually capable of. It's a beautiful thing to see a man who's gone for like 20 years, 15 years, a decade, just being very stagnant, really step into what he's truly capable of. Some of the goals here are personality change, developing intimacy. This is where we start talking about root cause. All the way through up to stage 3, we're not talking about the root cause. Unnecessary. At stage 4, this is where if there is a root cause, if there's some traumatic issue, we start working on that. And then finally, we have stage 5, which is maintenance. And this is where you actually understand what addiction or a compulsive behavior means to you. You understand and accept that there was a long-term neurological, personality, and there was lifestyle damage that was done to you, and it followed you into the program. When you realize this is where you understand that you have to maintain the things you've been doing from stage 1 to stage 4 in order for your brain to rewire. All you need to do is continue what you've been doing until you get to the 2-year mark. This is where there's tremendous growth and development. The danger here is overconfidence and complacency. Now, we have men who will stay in the program for the full 2 years. That is my recommendation. I'm not going anywhere. I've committed to this. I actually told my team that I'm committed for the next 25 years at least to keep doing this. So we're not going anywhere. I am all in with this. And when I say I'm all in, it means that I'm growing the movement. It doesn't mean you're going to have direct access to me. There are going to be many porn reboot coaches. There are going to be many individuals doing this, but our movement is going to be a long-term movement. So my recommendation is that men stay the full 2 years so that they have the support that is necessary and they can grow. What's the cause of relapse at the maintenance stage? This is an important one to mention. This only occurs when you relapse in the late stage, which is the prior stage, and you don't address anything that happens there. The cause of relapse in the late stage are loss of structure, loss of judgment, loss of control, and how would I put it? Some men experience this feeling of having reduced options because, especially for those of you who are high performers, you want to do everything. But now you've learned about the concept of seasons in your life. So now your life is broken down into seasons and you're like, you know what? This season, I'm just going to focus on my career, my wife, and my new kid. Another season, you might be focused on building your business and your health. Another season, you could be focused on working on your health, maybe going to therapy, and perhaps dating. However you put it together, not all things go together, but some guys feel bad because they're just not used to living with reduced options, and they're still very impulsive. So they begin to pile on too much on their plate. They end up relapsing. That's one of the most common reasons for men relapsing in the late stage after unresolved traumatic issues which come up. Let's see how much time we have in here. Oof, we're 13 minutes in. You know what? I'm actually going to end this episode here, and I'm going to record a second part because I think that's a lot for guys to digest, actually. What I'm going to speak about in the next episode is ambition, developing ambition during the stages of your reboot. So if you're one of those guys, just so you know, gentlemen, I try to keep the episodes short because a lot of men who listen to this do not have the longest attention span. And it sucks to listen to like a 45-minute or a 1-hour episode, and then something comes up, and then you don't know where you stopped in that episode. And you're like, did I stop at the 25-minute mark or the 37-minute mark? And you're looking for where JK said something? No. If it's 14 minutes, you can just listen to that while you're taking a dump in the toilet. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to stop it here. And if you still have the attention span and the energy, then move on to the next episode, which is going to be developing ambition during stages of your reboot. Hopefully, this has been a good refresher for you to help you identify where you're at in your reboot.
I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Porn Reboot Podcast. I'll speak to you later on in the week. If you found this episode helpful, here are 4 ways I can help you with your out-of-control sexual behavior for free. The first way is to grab a free copy of my book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men at elevatedrecovery.org, or visit the link in the description below this episode. The second way is, if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals and business owners who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot Group on Facebook. There's a link to join in the description below this episode. The third way is if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, Your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally or emotionally. You're about to lose your relationship. You want to live up to your potential, be an authentic man, and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving? Then click on the link in the description below this episode that says free coaching call. And the fourth way is to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this podcast, so that we can reach more men who are struggling in silence and bring back the lessons we learn from coaching them to freedom.